These old coffee table legs will be ideal for the legs of my new bench. First of all, though, I've got to get rid of all of the brown stain and varnish off them. I've got this stretcher rail from an old coffee table which will be just right for the bench, but it's a few inches too long. First I need to measure the exact length of the two runners that are already fixed to the bottom of the bench seat and mark a line on the stretcher. That'll be the shoulder of the new tenon. And square that line all around. Here I'm using a mortise gauge, which is a handy way of marking parallel lines on a piece of wood ready for you to cut a mortise or a tenon. First you set the two little pointers the right distance apart, and then you use the block to set a kind of shoulder so that it measures the right distance from the edge of the wood. Here you can see it leaves two sharp scratches in the wood which you can pencil in for easier sawing. Then we use the mortise gauge again with the points set closer together to mark the position for the slot. And again we go over the lines with a pencil just so that it's easier to see them when you're cutting and drilling. It's an old carpenter's habit when you've marked out a joint on a piece of wood just to shade in the waste. It's a kind of visual reminder of the bits that you're actually going to cut away. And here I've got an old carpenter's brace and bit, or a number of bits as you can see, and choose one that's the right width for the slot and put it into the brace, and we'll drill a hole through. We drill two holes through and then saw between them, as you'll see in a moment. There are a number of ways you could join the two holes up to make a slot. You could do, as I'm doing here, you could use a coping saw, you could use a keyhole saw, a pad saw, which I'll show you in a moment, or you could use an electric jigsaw. But I like to use hand tools when I can. Sometimes it gives you that little bit of extra control over things. And here is the pad saw, keyhole saw, and you could just as easily have used that saw to do it with. And now you can see the slot and where the tenon is going to be cut. And I've roughly shaped the end of the tenon, and then using a tenon saw I cut the shoulders off. Then it just needs finishing off and smoothing and just checking the size to make sure it goes through the hole in the legs. And there you are, just the same as the original. And here I'm going to offer it up to make sure it all fits the way it should do. Now, as you can see, I've got to do some shaping on these legs. Just mark a line down there. And then I'll use the Japanese oak saw to cut off those two pieces. I use that saw because it leaves a really nice smooth finish.